Do you need encouragement to turn tragedies into your own triumphant life story? If so, this podcast is for you. Listen to powerful guests who have persevered through challenges so you can gain strength to build your championship life. The host of Professor of Perseverance podcast, Dr. James Purdue.
Right, it's that time again for us to get fired up, get some motivation, get some inspiration. Let's find something that we can use today that's going to help us get through some troubling times. And we can reflect back on this as well, build on it as well, and do the other thing, pay it forward. All right, today, our guest got a question or two to ask you. He asks, do life's challenges weigh you down? Are your days filled with sense of emptiness and a tendency to focus on the negative? Do you have overthinking, anxiety, anger consume your mind and heart? If so, if you answered yes to one or more of these questions or all of the questions, let's go to where we can envision a future where you can lead with positivity, feel uplifted, inspired each day by the world around you. How might life look differently if you could easily answer the question, what's good about today? All right, we're going to find out what's good about today. Welcome to the show, Chris Cochran.
Hey, James, how are you? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I love your show. Thanks for giving me the opportunity and your platform.
Oh, no, I'm glad to do this and not to weigh everything down, but the reason I started the podcast, I like to tell people, is I attempted suicide 3 times in 3 days. That's how bad I wanted out. And of course, for some reason, God kept me here and still must have something to go on. So I figured part of my responsibility now, people are tired of hearing my story. So part of my responsibility is to get your story out and everybody else's story out and help that way. So that's the reason this podcast started.
Great.
So.
No, and I know your story, and that's good to hear. Yeah.
All right, Chris, glad you came on today. I told you I'm all excited about this positivity thing that's going on. And so let's go ahead and you jump in and start us off and we'll follow in.
Sure. Well, yeah, the message is drawn from experiences that I've gone through. I think you've talked about this in previous podcasts. You know, there's that moment where you've had those moments. 2 of those moments, the dates that live with me, August 26th of 2020 and September 1st of 2021. The day August.
I was going to say what you're saying is I wanted to thank just to other people who want to listen to that. I said that I got my neck broke on September 11th.
Right.
And you don't have to have September 11th as a date. Your September 11th could be, like you said, in August, September 1st. You know, it's a different date. It doesn't have to fall on 9/11. We all have our own September 11th.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the day my son was diagnosed, the first date. And the second date is when my son passed away a year later of terminal cancer at the age of 23. So, yeah, I mean, you know, there's always sort of this, pre-cancer and after cancer person, right? But at the end of the day, I spent a lot of time speaking to people. Every day we have a choice, right? A choice of either to be overwhelmed by the darkness in our lives or to seek the light. And so no matter how dim it may seem, I know this because I've lived it. My son lived it. Christian lived it. And, you know, it's important to share his story, not just his story, my story, but also to remind that, you know, even in the face of unimaginable loss, there's always something good about each day. And I love talking about not just survival, but also thriving even after grief, and then when we go through difficult times. So that's why I wrote the book. That's why I go on speaking engagements. That's why I continue to live on Christian's his message. This message actually, you know, when Christian was diagnosed with terminal cancer at the age of 22, he just graduated college. He's an honors kid. He's ready to take off. He's a young adult, so much talent, so joyful, such a beautiful soul. And he's given this terminal diagnosis. And I remember when they gave it to him, he I, of course, my knees were buckling, and Christian put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Dad, everything's going to be okay. I promise you, you're going to be fine. I'm going to be fine." And when we came home and told his mother about he had terminal cancer, we had this discussion. Christian said, "It's fine. I'd rather it be myself than anyone else out there. This is my burden to take." And every day up to the point in which he left this earth, one of the things that Christian reminded us when we were crying and we were sad and we were having these awful blue days, Christian would say to us, "What's good about today?" And it was his reminder that you can find beauty, you can find wonder, you can find the most amazing things every single day. You just have to look for them. And so many of us out there are struggling with so many different things, but you truly can find beauty in a day. And that's how we narrow that focus down, right? It's a simple message. It's not complicated. What's good about today? If you ask that question, I do believe if you ask that question every day, whether it's in the morning and in the night, in the afternoon, anytime, you can reflect a little bit easier on the present and what's going on.
Have you mentioned or thought about when you mention this, asking people maybe journaling this, what's good about today? Just put today's date, whatever, list 3 things. And then hopefully when they go back and reread, it's not the same 3 things. It's something new. I mean, something may be popped up 5 times in 1 week. But when they go through and look through it later on, they would go, I forgot about this, that, yeah. So.
Yeah, you do find that actually. You find people, they forget, they don't realize how much good there is in a day, right? And when you start the journaling is a great way to do it. I used to journal when Christian got sick. I started to write all kinds of journal entries every single day during his sickness. It's part of the book. It's how I intertwine it into the story. But it is a good way. It's a cathartic way of doing things. And you can find good messaging in that every single day. So, yeah, I encourage people to journal. It's a way to write down. Again, it's a simple way to do it. If you write down in a small pad, hey, this is what happened today. There's certainly bad things that can happen in your day, but you can also point out the good things. And I believe those things are more powerful than the bad things.
Should be more powerful.
Yeah,
Again, it goes to how our mentality is. We get beat down enough, then we just think there's no way out. But again, I'm like you. If we look hard enough, we can find something. And we may not find 3 things today. Maybe it's only 1. But that's something to build onto, to grab onto to get you through.
I agree. Agreed. 100%.
So, what type of Christian is your son? What type
Yeah.
of cancer was it?
Yeah. So Christian he was given it's called cholangiocarcinoma. I know that's hard to talk about, spell it out. It's a long name. Essentially, it's bile duct cancer, which the bile is
Hmm.
something that filters from the liver. When Christian was diagnosed, he had a grapefruit-sized tumor on his liver. He was already stage 4 at that point. It's not something that's discovered until the very latter stages. It's really not even seen much in this country. It's seen in Southeast Asia. It is seen in this country, but mostly in older folks. The population of young people that get this is small, but it is growing, as it is with lots of cancers in this world. And it's a constant, whether it's environmental, food, all kinds of different things that are popping up. But yeah, it's a death sentence, right? It's a less than 1% chance that you live past 6 months. And we worked very hard 24/7 to keep Christian alive, and search for the best doctors in the world. And so that's what we did. But unfortunately, we came up short. And but he was always at peace and always joyful, never complained a single time. I always remind people, when you go through these things, so many people go through difficult times and they say, "Why me? Why God? Why me?" Christian, not a single time from the moment he's diagnosed to the moment he took his last breath with us around him here at home, did he ever say, "Why me?" And quite frankly, he used the "what's good about today" to remind us of all the good. And so I think it's a testament of who he is as a person. So that's the message I try to get out.
Now, I'm being the stupid me, but I think you need to be starting your own podcast, and the title of it, "What's Good About Today." And I think you need to be doing, I bet you've heard this before, that you ought to start your own. And the title, exactly what you just said, "What's Good About Today," and go from there. So.
Yeah, thank you, James. Yeah, I want to do it. I think it's always, how it is. It's a time consumption, and And I'm also doing a lot of podcasts, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy being a guest. But yeah, it's on my to-do list, or I should say my to-love list. Christian always had, there's no to-do list. He had to-love list. And so I make a note that any of my to-love things that I need to do. And so that's probably one of them. I'll get to it at some point.
What's that called? The wife with the do list. What was that called? They used to call the wife's
A honey-do list.
honey-do list. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
I've gotten those from my wife many times.
So I've never been married, so I can't get into that one with the honey-do list. But yeah, I like that the love list to go and do. So hey,
Yeah.
now one reason that with tell people that I was diagnosed with colon cancer. I don't know about 7 years ago, and I thought, well, I'm going to journal this part of the season of my life, and whatever happens, happens. And so I did whatever the date was, Monday, and whatever happened that day, I wrote it into the thing. Okay. Very next day, Tuesday, whatever the date was, whoever I talked to, whatever happened, put it in and so that's basically a 6-week journal, basically, of what happened. And fortunately, by the time they did everything, 2 tests showed positive, and then when they went in with the camera finally to go root around, there was nothing there. So it was one of false negative, positive, false positives. Yeah. So
That's
yeah,
good.
but it was definitely a blessing to go through that.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
I like to it shows your character of your son there, Christian, when he says, you know what, I'm glad I'm the one that's carrying this burden. I wouldn't want to put it on dad. I wouldn't want to give it to mom. I don't know if he had any siblings, but I wouldn't want to give it to them. Wouldn't want to give it to my worst enemy. That I'll go ahead and take this burden, and that shows his character.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he and everybody, not just us, right? He has two siblings as well. I'm married. I should have mentioned I have 3 kids. Christian's one of them. My daughter, who's 15 months below Christian, and then Nicholas, who's about 4 years younger than Christian. And yeah, he wouldn't have wished that upon anyone. Interesting enough, I'm with my wife still. We dated since I was 16. I was turning 16 when I've met her. And so we've been together ever since high school. So yeah, our dream was always to build a family and, lead this perfect little life. And certainly that's not how life is, right? Life can smack you in the face when you think things are going pretty swimmingly. And then all of a sudden they're not, they just go completely a different direction. But I do believe that it's in those moments where we find our true strength. It's where it's through the suffering that we find the willingness to persevere and to make good, solid choices in our daily choices and how we approach things. And so I think that's important for anyone who's going through things. The power of perspective is critical as you look at things and how you look at your daily choices and how you react to those things as well. It's critical.
All right, you said the magic word. Let me get over here and give you a fist bump. All right. So it said the magic word, persevere. So the big old fist bump come out. Now it would be a tough question for someone newly passing, losing. My mom had to deal with this, the loss of a son. Oh, look at I'm out of the picture here. Let me click this other button back to where I belong. There we go. All right. The loss of a son. That the parents are supposed to live long enough and die before the children, and the children are supposed to bury them. And she had to put her youngest son, to grave 2 weeks before he turned 38. And so, can you talk a little bit about, that thought process? I mean, did y'all think about that Christian is supposed to be burying y'all, not you burying him? And
yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, right? That's the natural order of life, that we go before our children. And when the life balance changes on you, it's disruptive on so many levels, right? You got our firstborn, I always say Christian was the center of our family. It wasn't myself and it wasn't my wife. Christian was the center of the family because he he was just the most amazing guy, remarkably kind and generous and caring. And I talk a lot about that in the book. And too, I document how the stories that have flooded through and continue to flood through to this day of how he's affected everyone everywhere. And so, but as parents, yeah, it's the grieving is intense, right? This is September 1st, this past September 1st was Christian's 3-year since he passed. And so it's very fresh. It's not something that I always say it's a lot like sticky glue. It doesn't rub off you. And as a parent, I'm sure for your mother, same way, it just doesn't go away. People think it does, it's different when we lose a parent. It's different when we lose grandparents. I've lost my parents and that's just the way life is. And you kind of go through that process. But when you lose a child at an age like that, it's especially someone who is so talented and so giving to the world and is going to do so much in the world ahead. It's just taken from this earth. So as parents, you're going through the realization of all the things you're going to miss, right? His being married, having kids, his job, his new house, all these things that we go through in life, the joys and the up and the downs, of course, a part of life. But as parents, yeah, it's devastating. We still suffer with it. His mother is continuing to navigate the grief as I am too. But grief is different for every person.
Mm-hmm.
It's different for my wife. It's different for me. It's different for my children as siblings. And statistically, I'm sure you can look this up, but well over 50% of couples who go through something of the loss of a child end up divorcing. And the reason for that is because it's just the grief is so deep and so deep rooted that it's tough to acknowledge the other person's grief because you're going through something and you're wanting to express your grief, but yet they want to express their grief. So how do you manage that? And I thought, that's so important as I navigated grief, that keeping the family together was critical. Keeping my 2 other children at forefront, because that's what Christian actually asked me to do. He remember him saying to me, Dad, and we go on walks. This is not the kind of stuff you want to talk about with your 22-year-old son. We had time to talk about these things. And he said, Dad, you have 2 beautiful other kids. It's your job. And he said this to my wife too, to take care of them and be there for them. And so he had the knowledge and the understanding of this life. And so we want to keep doing that, and keeping the family together is everything. It's all I have, right? Is what I hang on to, the joys. So that's what we deal with as a parent and how we continue to navigate this process. But it's different for everybody that has this problem.
Again, he sounds like he was wise beyond his years.
Yes, he was. He was an old
Christian.
soul, as they say.
I heard other people talk about they feel real sorry, real bad for people that work until retirement and then they die within 6 months or a year after retirement. And I understand what they're saying there, but to me, young kids, yes, I understand that's hard because they haven't lived a life yet. But to me, when I hear a story, just graduating, got your life to look forward to, getting that big first job and making the money and getting out on your own and doing everything. Whether it's like a cancer diagnosis or, this senseless drive-by shootings and bullets just flying wherever and killing some innocent person. And I just feel so bad for those that finally have reached the pinnacle and graduating, and then they die for whatever reason and didn't get a chance to use their gift to the world.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's devastating. And because I talk to so many people, I do seminars, I am asked to speak at certain events. I speak at university level, which gives me the best impact because I'm talking to young adults, right? They're the ones that I can speak to about all there is to look forward to and to be positive. But I also, because I'm out on a book tour and I'm speaking at events and different locations and libraries, there are those who show up who are going through immense grief, right, for the loss of their children. And I take on those stories, and those stories they're horrible, right? Whether it's suicide and car accidents, their lives were snuffed out in a second. And parents who have that happen don't have an opportunity to say goodbye. They don't have an opportunity to have these
Yep.
discussions. You know,
Yep.
I always say I'm extremely blessed. Yes, I lost my son. It is horrible. It is the worst thing possible. But my daughter reminded me of something way back when, I can't remember. This is shortly after Christian died, and you go through the questions of why. And my daughter said something profound. She said, "Why not Christian?" It made sense because he had such a profound effect on so many people. And he was, you know, when I talk about Christian, this is the gloating side. And Christian, I can always hear his voice telling me, "Dad, don't gloat at me." But Christian was talented, right? He was the lead in every musical. There's a big school out here in Western Pennsylvania called Pine
Hmm.
Richland. And he was the lead in every musical, every play. He was the prom king. He had already been in one of the big budget movie called Batman: Dark Knight Rises. He'd been in that movie. He had done,
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah. So he had traveled the world. He had been to India, been to Prague. He had done so much in such a short period of time. He had lived a full, in many ways, 3 lifetimes of other people.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just the way he was. He lived so big, but it made sense because he impacts so many people. That's why this message is so important. It's a simple message, right? What's good about today is simple. It's simple to implement. It's simple to say. It's simple to look back on. And I think that the more people who say it, the more we can have an impact. And I am seeing the impact. It's been tremendous. I'm overwhelmed by the response and the level that's happening right now in the world.
I'm reflecting after when you mentioned about how you go speaking and hear other people's stories and stuff. I just one of the that stand out in my head that really when I think about it, and we need to remember these stories too and everything. But this woman come up after I got done speaking in this library, and she says to me, "I don't know why I'm here. I just felt calling to come to this." And then she says, "But when I heard your story, I know you're going to help me with your story."
Mm-hmm.
This is on Saturday. Just briefly talked to her. I gave her one of my books. I didn't even offer to, I mean, pay for it. She said, "Here, take the book and everything. Since you're going to help you the best I can." And Monday, I got an email that was forwarded from me from the person that organized this speaking event, and the woman was diagnosed with some type of cancer and given 6 months to live.
Mm-hmm.
And she was using the information that I was giving to help her through that next 6 months to again to open up with her family because I'm big open up with we should talk to our family. Tell them that you love them that last time because it may be the last time. And I know it. You hate losing your son, but you got to think about how much of a blessing that you got to spend that time together and talk and let him reassure you everything's gonna be good and how much he loved. Oh, that had to been to me. That would be more gloating that year of just spending that time with him than the other stuff you mentioned. And I don't consider it gloating. To me, I'm one of them things. If it's true, then it's not gloating. It's true. It happened.
Right.
So
Right. No, I appreciate you sharing that story. That's powerful because we never know how each one of us impacts the other person. We'll certainly understand that ripple effect once we're no longer here on this earth, and you'll see the impact that those type of conversations have. But you're right. It's amazing when you go and meet people can open up and have these discussions. And I know exactly what you're saying when someone starts to talk. I've had the same situations where they say, I've never opened up about this. I've never lost my son. And I can't talk about it, but I can talk about it now. Um, especially it's not the club we want to be in, right? Losing children
yeah.
like that, but it does allow us the opportunity that, and to your point, which is, yeah, I think, yeah, I am blessed that I had that, but if I'm being authentic and true to myself, it was torturous at the same time, right?
Oh
Because
yeah, yeah, no doubt about that.
right. There was, yes, I remember memorizing every crease on Christian's body, every nuance about him because I knew that he was going to be gone, and when you know that for a fact, you know what we're up against and what we're challenged with. Doesn't mean you stop believing or giving up complete hope. I certainly kept all that inside. I knew the truth. I didn't share that with my wife, but it eats your body away, right? It just eats away at you. So I think doing what I'm doing today is part of leading. That's why the book, What's Good About Today, A Purpose-Driven Life, I believe the book is a way to read the book and understand how to lead a purposely driven life. Because here's an individual, I believe, my son Christian, who led this purposely driven life all his life, when he was a little boy, when he was a little baby, all the way up to when he passed away. And it documents how he did this through the love, the kindness, and generosity that he gave every single day. So I think, just like you said, your story's powerful. It affects a lot of people, and what you did was amazing. That's what your calling was to do.
If someone was to come up to you and say, um, hey, listen to one of your speeches or seminar or workshop or read your book. I'm assuming if they read the book, they'll get the idea. But come up to you after listening and say, I just can't get started on what's good about today. I mean, what would you tell them to how to get started? I didn't stump my toe going to the bathroom on the door frame. I mean, how would you tell them that the best way for them to try to get started?
Well, I think first it's your mindset, right? This is a mindset thing. I look at myself as a good listener. I like to listen, understand everybody has unique strengths, challenges, and each individual has all these different things happening in their life. But I think a mindset is everything. I mean, it shapes how we respond to the challenges and opportunities, for that matter. And I think it enables us to find solutions. It helps us to stay motivated, view the setbacks that we may have as stepping stones. And I think I tell, I haven't had anyone come up and say, how do I get started with what's good about today? But I do know that it starts
Well,
with
I'm talking about, journaling,
yeah,
or
yeah,
thinking, or just thinking, two
yeah,
things on how do I find this good through the day on the difficult days. I mean, it's
yeah,
easy to find it on the great days, right? You can come up with 1.5 million things on a great day.
yeah.
But it's on your difficult day. How do I come up with two
Well,
things?
yeah, I don't think you have to find what's good about today at the end of a day necessarily, right? I think you can start your day off with what's good about today, right? Because when you wake up and you're able to get out of bed and you're able to move and you see the sunshine, or I don't care if it's snowing, I don't care if it's raining, right? That is good about today, right? There are lots of things in the beginning of your day that you can see that are happening or good. And you can also look at it at the end of the day, but during your day, it's a reflection point, right? It's a moment that it can happen on that particular day. So if someone says that to me, I say it's today. It's the fact that you're sitting here talking to me about this is what's good about today. The fact that you can have these conversations with one another and talk to somebody about that, that is what's good about today. It's one thing that's good about today. So I think there's much to look at when someone's trying to figure out. Yeah, again, not everybody's going to journal. Not everybody's going to write things down. And and
Exactly.
and I know that, and I don't. That's why the message is so simple, because you don't have to. You can simply reflect and use your mind to understand where you're at and pause. I talk a lot in the book about the art of pausing. It's the moments in pausing where we find joy, where we find reflection, where we find instances where how we're going to react to things, how we're going to approach a situation, a difficult situation or a good situation. But there's a much that is lost in the pausing. So I've learned, one of the great things that I've learned is to pause a lot. And Christian reminded me that when you're going through things, to take the pause and think things through on all kinds of things, and you will come to, obviously, better solutions for yourself and others. And that's how I would approach that.
I like what you said is you don't necessarily have to wait to the end of the day to try to remember what was good about today. If it comes boom right now, have a little joyful thought, positive thinking at that moment. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, because honestly, James, that's actually being implemented into school districts right now. I work with K through 12 schools, and there are many schools, and trying to spread this across the country, where they have a board inside these schools in the elementary school, and it says what's good about today. And kids, when they come in the morning, they write what's good about their day. Now, some of it's what's going to happen in the future. I've got baseball practice. I'm so looking forward to playing a game, or, I get to go over to Cindy's house and get for a play, or the sun is shining. Some are simple, some are basic, but it's a tool that the teachers are actually using. At the end of the day, they erase that board, and the next day they comment and they write it again. But it's also a teaching tool for children to know what's good about their day, because so much of them are going through so many difficult things.
Oh yeah.
But it's also a way to identify those that are going through bad moments. If you can't write anything what's good about today, for a teacher, that's the way to identify a child that's having some struggles. And so we look at it as a tool, what's good about today, for kids as well. It's not just for adults. It's not just for you or I, but it's meant for everyone. It's meant for every human being that walks this earth.
Well, the earlier we can train them to think positive, the longer it's going to be lasting in their life. It's the people like me over 50, and then now we decide we're tired of this negativity. Now it's so much harder to do this. Yeah, I agree. I like that start them young and going from them. Hey, they started off young being negative, didn't they? When they're a baby, what'd they do? Whine and cry when I'm hungry. All right, whine and cry when I gotta go, when I just went to the bathroom myself. And then here the parents are running on every little negative thing, and they've learned, hey, I get attention when I just whine and cry and be negative. And so we need to break that as soon as possible. I understand the baby they got to communicate somehow. Too bad you can't teach them to giggle, different giggles for different things.
Yeah.
So, but I've never had any children, so I can't go long on that one.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I will say this, Christian, I did definitely cry. So I guess he did complain when he was really small, but I will say this, I can distinctly remember we used to refer to Christian as Mr. Comfort, because he would comfort everyone, even as a small child. He would comfort my wife when she was going through labor with the other children. He would tell her that she was valuable and she's important. I mean, this is a young, we're talking about a 4 or 5-year-old kid who understood that, and he had this incredible empathy. And so we witnessed it all the way through. I remember when he was 8 years old, I think it was, his first day of school, to go to the bus stop. Well, you haven't had kids, but I can tell you, every parent who's listening knows this. When you take your kid to a bus stop, if there's a bus stop, kids are trying to get onto the bus first. They want to get the best seat. They want to get in the back of the bus, and they want to get next to their best friend. Christian was the kid who did not get on the bus first. He never wanted to get on the bus first because he wanted everyone to have the best seat first. He also waited for those with special needs to get on the bus. And he would always be the one that was always typically in the front of the bus. And he did that because he wanted everyone to be happy. He thought of other people's needs. Not to mention, he loved the idea that he got to know the bus driver. So he just had a different way of looking at things, whereas most kids are not looking like that. He was looking at a very different perspective.
Hey, you ever watch that sitcom Big Bang Theory?
I've seen elements of it. Yeah.
I can say, Christian, go to the bus driver. You're on my spot, and he wants to drive the bus. He wants the seat in the house to get everybody there safely. So
right.
There you go. Good deal.
Yeah.
Hey, this has been good. Hey, I love your shirt. Yeah, I'm looking at it. WGAT. Got what's good about today.
There you go.
I like that shirt. There you go. I like his shirt.
Just like got milk, but got what's good about today. Yeah, absolutely.
That's looking good.
Thank
All right, Christian, I appreciate you being here and sharing your story. And sorry you lost Christian so young, but he's left with a lifetime. And again, and stuff's going to be, as you're sharing his story, and of course your story and the family story, that again, it's going to be pushed forward, paying it forward. Things going to happen. Somebody else going to share its story somewhere else along the line. 100 years from now, you're going to be helping someone, and hopefully you're here in 100 years. But if not,
I can assure you I won't be here.
Somewhere, again, it's going to be pushed in the old paying it forward thing. Yeah. So
I better not be here in 100 years.
I tell you what, I'm sorry to say this. I won't say it too loud. I'm having to care for mother, she's 84 and dementia. And I've said multiple times, I don't want to be 84 dementia. I'd rather die at 79 than go. But today's a new day for her every day, and she meets new people every day. And
Yeah.
so,
Well, I'm
but
prepared. As I say, I'm always prepared to go today, so I'm okay with it either way. I'm
amen,
okay.
brother. I hear you.
I'm
So,
fine.
all right, Chris, appreciate you being here. Go ahead and tell people about your books, any websites, anything, programs you got going on, how they can get a hold of you.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, thanks, James. And again, thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it and an opportunity to speak about it. Anyone can certainly Google Christian Cochran. They'll pull up all kinds of information. We do the Christian Cochran Legacy Fund, which helps those who are less privileged children in inner city schools. It's a fund that Christian actually set up before he passed away. We're just following his example, and it's through the Pittsburgh Foundation. You can find out more information at christiancochran.org. That's a foundation that we use to help those who are in need. You can certainly buy the book at Amazon. You can buy the book at Barnes & Noble. Just look for or ask for What's Good About Today, A Purpose-Driven Life, or Google it. You'll find that as well. And if you want to know more about me, I'm chriscochranspeaks.com. There you'll find all kinds of information, videos, things that we're trying to do, I'm trying to do, and get out on my speaking arrangements. But ultimately, if you're able to pick up the book, that would be a wonderful thing. And I think there's a lot of good that can come from it. And make sure you give me a good review. No bad reviews.
There you go, and get you two of them. It's Christmas is coming along here in a few months. Pass it on to someone
Absolutely.
with a gift and everything. All right, Chris, appreciate you being here. Now, we know people are hurting and struggling today. If you can leave us with a positive message, something they can grab a hold of to get through today.
Oh, were you talking to me?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's take two. I got my thing back there. It's over here somewhere. Right there it is. Got my clapper there. Take two. All right, Chris. We know that people are hurting and struggling today, and if you can leave us with a positive message to help them get through today, that'd be a blessing.
Absolutely. Well, here it is. Life will hand us challenges. It will bring us to our knees, and sometimes we won't know how to move forward. But if there's one thing Christian taught me, it's this. There is always something good about today. It might be small, it might be hidden, but it's there. And we can choose to focus on that when we embrace resilience and when we commit to creating a legacy built on love, kindness, and courage. We don't just survive, we thrive. And so I leave you with this. What's good about today, and how will you let that guide you forward?
Amen, brother. I appreciate it. So tell the missus we said hello and everything.
I sure
And
will.
let's try not to be what's called a stranger. And like to talk to you again at a later date.
I would
So,
love that, James. Thank you so
all right.
much.
Everybody else, thank you for listening in. Hey, share it with someone you know that can use a little bit of uplift today, and go from there. Again, pay it all forward. I'm Dr. James Purdue, the professor of perseverance. Do something today, tomorrow, something next week. It's going to help you persevere past your